Well, for a closer look at how small businesses are doing in the U.S., I'm joined by Ryan Patel. Ryan is a global business executive and senior fellow with the Drucker School of Management at Claremont Graduate University. Always good to have you on.
Great to be with you.
So as we saw, retail sales figures came out, beating expectations. What's your view of these most recent figures?
Well, it points to that there is demand, right? That there are consumers willing to spend. And I think that's what we wanted to see a little bit of coming out of the pandemic through the summer. Will people be tight with their money, meaning will they not want to spend as much and save some? But, the demand is there, so that's a healthy piece. Whenever we see one side of the coin, we always want to see the other side to go, well, how are you going to match up with that, and what does expectations look like? So it's great to see the demand coming there and that coming into the holiday season, but the nervousness is really on the other side of the coin, on the supply side.
So then do you expect this current pace of spending to continue with the holiday shopping season and obviously with prices still elevated?
Yeah, I think what we're going to find, and it's similar to what we saw last year during the holiday season here in the U.S., is that things when you purchase something will not arrive on time, or things specifically just out of stock. And I think that will, net affect sales, right? If you have the money to buy something and it's not there, well, there's not a transaction, and that's a, saving on one end and, a loss in profit on the other side. And so I think those two things for sure, we're going to see that for the consumers and specifically retailers having to maybe not discount as much going into this year and trying to get rid of all the inventory that they do have and possibly get their hands somehow in other ways to get more inventory.
And I think we really did take for granted before the pandemic just the ease of sort of getting goods. And then the pandemic came, everyone was ordering things online. But so how now are small businesses and retailers in America currently faring versus some of these large retail giants with these supply chain bottlenecks?
Well, I mean, they're behind the eight ball. If you think about it, it was estimated from the Federal Reserve in a recent study, 800,000 small businesses closed permanently in the first year of the pandemic. So that's almost 30% more than typical. And what that means is that small businesses couldn't keep the cash in hand to stay surviving. Now you're going to go into the holiday season where you can't really compete with the big boxes and buying more inventory. You have to buy small portions of it, and already puts you behind that. So I think that's to have to understand that aspect, and what small businesses need to do really is collaborating with other small businesses in the area and providing using e-commerce as a platform too, to provide that convenience and inventory control for consumers out front so they can be really aware of it.
And then in terms of economic support, what sort of remedies are available for some of these smaller businesses?
Well, we've seen a couple places. I mean, there's a couple of things, right? There's already a labor shortage that is causing profits to go up. We saw the infrastructure bill. We're seeing, more loans forgiven, more loans providing, liquidity during this aspect as well. But really, I think if you think about the small businesses, what can they do? They have to really change their pricing model quite often. And I think you see the demand. I think some of the consumers are going to expect a little bit more pricier holiday season because they see and read about the supply chain. And so finding that right, price point to ensure that the small businesses can still be profitable and not selling something at a negative cost is something maybe in the past they haven't really paid attention to, but right now every penny, every dollar counts to survive through the holiday season to pick it up into 2022.
Especially since people don't know how long this is going to continue for. So then how might the recently enacted infrastructure bill help some of these small businesses in the U.S., even though it's obviously still very early days?
Yeah, I think it's early, but I think it's clear in the infrastructure bill that many things, right? We see ports here in Los Angeles. There's boats off the shore waiting. We need more people to be able to have the supply come in. The shipment side, getting the good to the store has become, like you mentioned earlier, for granted. We expect everything to be here the next day, and that's just not possible. And so really kind of speeding up that process, and also, building other things that can from other states to be able to get there quicker than from overseas. So I think having those products, having the supply chain labor too is important, and ensuring that, the infrastructure as a whole, the pricing stays cheaper than more expensive.
So then, given some of the points you mentioned then, what's your outlook for the holiday season, specifically for some of these small box retailers in the U.S.?
Well, I think the holiday season as a whole, I think we're going to see a lot more spending than we did before. I mean, we think, it's around the National Retail Federation expects it to be 8.5% to 10.5%. increase. That's around $859 billion in the holiday spending, and the massive amount of demand of the last shot up over the last 5 years to 10 years. And so all of that is good for the whole pie. And when we see Walmart and Target and from their filings that they are stocking up more inventory, it means that they don't have all the inventory. So small businesses have a great opportunity to be able to get into this pie where there is a capital and that they're not shut down compared to when we were in lockdown. So I think that we're going to see from that industry a lot more revenue stream in the holiday season because there is that boost in spending this year than compared to last year.
We certainly hope so. Thank you so much. Ryan Patel there, Senior Fellow with the Drucker School of Management at Claremont Graduate University.